animation students presenting their final productions. On Tuesday, our students at the Western Jamaica campus hosted a webinar in social media and branding. And yesterday we had the 11th staging of the annual Carimac Agri-Brown Distinguished Lecture delivered by Dr. Patrick Prendergast, where he spoke about the importance of community radio in translating voice into action. The idea of an open week really came out of a curriculum review and revision process, where we feel it is necessary for students to not only engage in media production, but also be given an opportunity to exhibit their work. And the COVID pandemic has really challenged us this year, because I know the students were quite concerned about how they would have been able to access the studio spaces, the production equipment, the software to be able to complete their final year productions. Well, the fact that we're hosting the Open Week this week indicates that, you know, our students have been able to deliver. I know it was challenging for many of them, but, you know, they've been very innovative and creative, and they really have been able to deliver. I want to say a very special welcome to Ms. Cheryl Thompson from the National Public Radio. I know the students are very excited to have you share in this event this evening with them. And I'm looking forward to the question and answer discussion that we will have. Welcome. And so we want to talk a little bit about the curriculum review process I mentioned earlier. You know, years ago at Carimac, we had only one degree program in media and communication about 10 years ago. And then, you know, through our curriculum review, we now have programs in journalism, integrated marketing communication, film production, animation, digital media production at the undergraduate level. And then at the graduate level, we have programs, master's programs in communication studies, communication for social and behavior change, integrated marketing communication. And this year we launched or accepted the first cohort in a new master's in media management, which we're offering in collaboration with the Mona School of Business and Management. I know many of our students, you know, who joined us for the first time this year online with their studies are telling us that they would like to remain online. So we're looking forward to that, you know, and delivering in the future. But, you know, because we have to provide production courses, we anticipate that we will have a future where our classes will be blended, a mix of face-to-face for the production classes and then online for the theory classes. So we're looking forward to that. But let me congratulate the final year journalism students. I remember last academic year when the pandemic just broke out, you know, there were lots of concerns. They were complaining about not being able to come to the physical space of Carimac. I just want to say to you that we're committed to student success, and we know you're not in the building right now, but recognize that when it is safe to do so, if you need to put together that portfolio, if you need to access the lab to use the specialized software or to book the equipment to shoot over a scene for one of your productions, please contact us. We will accommodate you when it is safe to do so. So although you're finished now with your curriculum and you are looking to graduate, in November, between now and November, if you want, please get in touch with us. Our technical team is standing by to be able to accommodate you so you can, you know, refine those productions that you've had to probably work on using your mobile or smart devices. Congratulations to the integrated marketing communication students who have helped to plan today's event, and the team that calls themselves the Times Best 7. Congratulations also to the lecturers, and that's Dr. Corinne Barnes, Mr. Stefan Campbell, Ms. Yvette Rowe, and David Suter, Mr. David Suter. Congratulations to our lecturers. I want to do a quick online roll call. I can't see you, but you can see us in this live stream. So please take a moment and tell us in the chat where exactly you're joining us from. And you know, we can see how our event is catering to a group of individuals, not just in Jamaica, but beyond Jamaica. Once again, welcome, and do enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Livingston White. And for those of you who are just joining us, thank you so very much for tuning in to Digitimes 2021. This is a production of the final year journalism students of the Caribbean School of Media and Communications, Carimac. My name is Damian Mitchell. Well, now we turn to another highlight of today, a talk with investigative journalist at the National Public Radio, NPR, Cheryl Thompson. She prefers to be called Cheryl. She is an investigative correspondent for NPR who oversees investigations for a number of member stations. She has spent 22 years as an investigative and beat reporter with the Washington Post. Her work has prompted policy changes and state and federal probes that resulted in the conviction of several elected and appointed officials. In 2018, Cheryl was elected the first Black president of investigative reporters and editors. Cheryl is an associate professor of journalism at the George Washington University. Cheryl, we're so happy to have you this evening. Cheryl, are you hearing us? You may be muted. You may want to unmute your microphone.
Yes. I was muted by the host. I guess I was talking too much, so she just shut me down. So thank you so much for having me.
Yes, well, we're really happy to have you. Well, it's probably the longest story on the radio in modern times, COVID-19. In general, how has it been for you?
Well, as a journalist, you know, it's a mixed bag. It's been tough in a lot of ways, I think, as a journalist, because one, I mean, we didn't see this coming, right? And so people, you know, journalists, we had to make do the best we could. And one of the things that I think was problematic for me, you learn to overcome this stuff as a journalist, was nobody was working, everybody was remote. And so if you didn't have cell numbers, right, yes, or emails, it was really hard to get a hold of people. And that was a bit trying for me, because you're trying to keep up with the news. You have to keep up with the news, and so you need to reach out to people. You need to have your sources. So, but you figure out a way. You figure it out. If you've been doing this a while, you've got sources. You figure out a way to get a hold of people. But this is
the heart of your work really is keeping the powerful accountable. I mean, how has the pandemic impacted that?
Well, you know, my job is to hold the powerful accountable 365 days a year, pandemic, no pandemic, you know, it's what we do. Yes. And so with this pandemic, at least, you know, there were so many stories every day. I mean, it was just, you know, we were churning out stories day after day. But, you know, there was one thing I noticed about this pandemic in terms of investigations. There was so much money, right? There was so much money floating around from the federal government, and, you know, because we needed equipment, the personal protection equipment. There were, you know, businesses that were suffering, and so there was the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, and we're talking like trillions of dollars, right? And so we had to, one of the things that we as journalists do, we had to track the money, you know, not only track the money, to figure out who was getting it, where it was going, you know, and you have to do that all in a timely manner, because this is still an ongoing news story. But then, you know, a year ago, it was insane in terms of it was the news. Nothing else much seemed to matter.
Well, in fact, that's one of the questions I intended to have put to you, because this COVID pandemic has opened up the room for acquisitions, hospital supplies, other contracts dealing with expenditure. Do you get the feeling that there has been sufficient scrutiny of the expenditure in this process? Are you able to hear me? I'm not sure. We're seeming to be having some difficulty there in connecting with Ms. Cheryl Thompson, who is in the United States. She is with the NPR, National Public Radio. We're looking at the matter of COVID-19, the pandemic, and how it has impacted the expenses, how it has impacted public expenses, that is, as well as how it has impacted the issue of journalism and investigative journalism, to be very, very specific. So we have her now back online.
Yeah, my apologies. It's just the connection, you know, welcome to technology.
We understand.
I swear I didn't do anything.
Right, we were asking you the same question. You were just hinting at it a while ago. That matter of the access to resources. This now is the time when so much money is being spent on areas to do with hospital acquisitions, for example, vaccine supplies. Do you get the feeling that there has been sufficient scrutiny in respect of the expenses for these reasons?
Oh, I think there has been a lot of scrutiny. I mean, think about, your media organizations that, I mean, we went after this, right? I mean, all the big, the Post and the Times and the Journal and NPR and, not necessarily in that order. And we did. I know that I and some colleagues, like, we just delved into things about, we looked at, for instance, where who was getting the contracts to provide the personal protection equipment, the mask, and the, all the equipment needed to sort of combat or keep people safe. And it was, I mean, there were so many companies, but what we drilled down on companies that got over $1 million, right? And then we drilled even further, because it's like what you find when you have a lot of government money going back and forth, in a pandemic like this, something that changed how we live. People were coming from everywhere trying to get the money. And so what we did was we looked at those who got at least $1 million, and also like how long they had existed. I found companies that existed for, a week before they got like millions of dollars in contracts. So that's the scrutiny that you want to do when you're trying to hold people accountable, and there's a lot of money going back and forth. You want to do stories like that and see who's getting the money, who are these people, what's their track record, and things like that. And the same thing with the paycheck protection. It was designed to pay the expenses, the salaries, the expenses to keep businesses afloat. Well, it went to, major corporations that actually ended up giving the money back after it became public that they really shouldn't have gotten it in the first place. So that's how you hold people accountable in times like this.
Well. So can you clarify for us, though, the financing model for public radio versus commercially operated media entities?
Oh, that is so above my pay grade. No, I can't. Sorry. I can talk about journalism.
Yes, I asked that question as a precursor to this one, because across the world, there have been pay cuts and other austerity measures for media workers, including journalists. So do you reckon that these have or could influence the work of journalists to hold the powerful accountable during COVID?
Well, yeah, it's like anytime when you have layoffs and cutbacks. I mean, we had to take, it was no secret. NPR instituted some cuts. You have to do what you have to do to make sure that you can still maintain the quality of journalism. And so everybody was, at least at NPR, was willing to take, to do what they had to sacrifice, right? Just so that we could still do what we do best.
Perhaps the biggest part of the discussion relates to the fact that journalists are humans too, with families too, who get sick too, and who are just as beaten out by the mental and the psychological impact of the virus. How serious are these realities, though, in respect of the work of journalists in a pandemic?
Oh, I have a lot of journalist friends, and you're right, we're all human and we need that downtime. We need to take time off. And I know that my company, NPR, has been really good about, like, if you need some time off, ask for it. If you need some help, there are resources available. And I suspect that's happened all over the US with media companies, because you get burned out, on a good day if you've been doing something long enough, and throw in a pandemic, and it's just, where if you have kids and they're home now, and you're not used to that, and they're not used to that. And I mean, I don't have kids, but I got a dog, and the dog's not used to me being here every day. And and now that I have been for a year, like, she wants all my attention and I can't do it. So yeah, you just learn to cope. And I gotta tell you, I mean, I have one window here. This is my home office, and I have one window, and I gotta tell you, I'm pretty sick of looking out of this one window every single day. But you do what you have to do, and when you need a break, you take it.
Have there been any advantages, though, for the investigative journalists arising from COVID-19?
Have there been any advantages for investigative journalists?
Yes.
That's a good question. I don't know offhand, like advantages. I think for me, working from home, I really focus on my stories, right? Because I don't have the distractions that you do in a newsroom. But in terms of, but no, because we're still churning out stories, even at I think a faster rate. There are journalists out there who are going to laugh when we talk about investigative reports. Are you kidding me? Like, you guys take forever to do stories. But you got to churn things out. And so I don't know if there's been an advantage. I think the disadvantage, as I said earlier, is that it's harder to get people, right? And also remember that this is, I work in radio, and tape is to radio what ink pen is to a print person. And so I need that tape. And so it's been a little challenging trying to figure out, like, how do I tape people when I can't see them? And so, but you figure it out.
Yep. Well, if you are just joining us, we are talking with NPR investigative journalist Cheryl Thompson. And of course, if you have questions or comments for her, please type them in the chat and we will pose them on your behalf. We have some coming in. This one is from Nayukia Manning. She's just saying that journalism should be prioritized in all aspects. Fitzroy Randall, she says that investigative journalism is not appreciated in Jamaica. Claudine Allen, she also has a point. She says mainstream journalism is also important in a world where everyone can say anything on so many social media platforms. We sought to rely on mainstream media sources for the truth. So that's coming in from Claudine.
Well, can I respond to that first comment?
Sure.
There are places in the U.S. where investigative reporting is not wanted either. Let me tell you, and it's usually by the people who are being investigated. But it's our job, right? I mean, we hold people accountable. That's what we do. We are the eyes and ears and the mouths of the people who cannot speak for themselves.
Well, one of the complaints, certainly here in Jamaica, has been that the format of government press conferences, now almost all are held virtually. Reporters are no longer able to get the chance to press a minister on an issue in the corridors. And online, the second you're through with your question, your mic is muted. Little opportunity for follow-up and for holding the feet to the fire. Do you witness that too?
I don't. I haven't attended a press conference since COVID, but I know that everything was sort of. I used to cover the White House, and I noticed that it was a different administration. It was under the Obama administration, and then I noticed under the Trump administration, press conferences just changed anyway. They didn't have the daily briefings, but then when they resumed, through time, they were in person outside for the most part, in the Rose Garden or wherever. And so, yeah, you get a chance. I mean, there's nothing like being in person, right? If you're interviewing somebody. I don't like email interviews because I think that you don't have a chance for follow-up. And the other thing is you really don't know with whom you're speaking via email. So I prefer the in-person interviews for sure. There's no substitute.
Definitely. Well, Ashley Brady is also posing a question to you. She's asking, how has investigative journalism changed, especially during this time?
I'm not sure that it has. We still do what we do. We just do it from home, right? But the method is the same. The stories are the same. I mean, we still do what we do. Again, we just do it from a different place. I mean, we can do, the good thing is with journalism, you can pretty much do it from anywhere. And certainly we've been tested over the last year. But yeah, for me, no, I don't think it has changed, other than, again, being able to reach out to people, get a hold of people. But the format's the same, the stories are the same. You go out and you get it.
Well, tell me, what do media entities need to do, though, to enhance the environment for investigative journalism in a pandemic?
I don't know what they can do. Because you're talking, I'm not sure I understand the question either.
In other words, are there more things that media entities may be able to do to enhance the environment to allow the journalists to get that story given the challenges that they face in this pandemic?
No, see, I don't think, and I can only speak for me and my organization and, maybe a couple of organizations I worked for in the past, but the only difference really that I see is that we're doing it from home. But we're still doing, you still ask the tough questions. Yeah, maybe by phone, but you still ask the tough questions. And now, things are starting to open up. And, in this country, we are getting vaccinated. I mean, I'm vaccinated now, so I feel better about hopping on a plane, going somewhere. As a matter of fact, I'm going to hop on a plane in another week to 10 days to go and do a story somewhere. I'm not sure I'm crazy about hopping on a plane right now, but what I need to do needs to be done in person. And so, I will mask up and I will wear my face shield and I'll wear my gloves and, I'll take all the precautions.
Yes.
But you got a job to do. And so you have to do it.
You have our entire blessing. Here's another question coming from Javon Gordon. And he's saying, how do you keep the bias out of reporting?
I never take things personally. Right. I really do. Somebody asked me a similar question last week. I was talking to a group and I said, you empathize, but you don't sympathize. I don't sympathize with people, but I empathize. I want them to know, oh yeah, okay, I understand how you could feel this way. That doesn't mean I feel that way. And so I stay focused that this is a job I have to do. I've been in situations, I've covered stories where, you can't let your emotions get the best of you. And at the end of the day, it's not personal for me. I've been, oh my God, I could tell you all some of the stories about how I've been talked to and treated and assaulted once. And it's like, it's that might have been a little personal, but you just do your job and just keep it moving. And you have to be fair. Listen, credibility is all we have as journalists.
Critical. Well, time is fast running out on us, and there are two questions we want to squeeze in. Another from Javon, and he is asking, what do you miss most about working in the newsroom?
I miss my colleagues. I'm one of those journalists. I love being in a newsroom. It is like there is something magical and inspiring to being in a newsroom, for me at least. And that's what I miss the most, is like just being in there, because there's a lot of energy in a newsroom, right? And there is not much energy in my home office, I gotta tell you, but there's a lot in a newsroom, and I do miss that. And I look forward to the day when we can get back to it, hopefully.
Well, can I say I empathize?
Yes.
And there's
one final say you actually sympathize.
There's one final question here, and this is coming from 18 Degrees North TV. What techniques do you use to track gun ownership if you know the serial number?
Oh my God, what? Somebody did their homework and know that I've written about guns. Well, if you know the serial number, how do you track them?
Yes. What techniques do you use to track gun ownership if you know the serial number?
So here's the thing. So some years ago, I'll try to shorten this. Congress, there was a person lawmaker from Kansas who got a bill passed, and it's called the TR Amendment, and it prohibits people like me from tracing guns. And so the people who have, even if you know the serial number, if you're trying to trace it personally for a story or something, there is, in the United States at least, a law enforcement can do it. And actually the federal government is prohibited. Let me see if I got this right. It's been a few years, but there is a thing called a gun tracing, that's not the formal name, but it's a tracing report, right? And it comes out of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms. And anyway, and it has all the tracing information on it, right? But only law enforcement has access to it. And the federal law enforcement folks are not allowed, they are prohibited by law from releasing that. But when I was tracking guns some years ago to see how many police officers were being killed by them, it didn't prevent local and state law enforcement officials from releasing that. So that's how I got those. It was called a trace data report, gun trace data report. And that's how I got it in, I want to say it was 137 cases that I looked at. I could trace the guns. But yeah. You just have to use your sources. See if you got some sources who can, law enforcement sources who will help you out. But don't burn them. Never burn your source.
Well, you know, whenever you announce that we're running out of time, you get more questions. So let me try to get one in now. Tiffany. Tiffany is asking, how do you yourself from being targeted, or how do you prevent yourself from being targeted personally as an investigative journalist?
You know, people have asked me before, have I ever been, have I ever felt like my life was in danger? And no, I'm one of the lucky ones, because I mean, yeah, I write about police and guns and prisons and, you know, there's like, ooh, dangerous stuff. But there was one time when I was a little concerned, and it was the case, it was some years ago, of a 13, 14-year-old kid here who had been gunned down by an off-duty police officer. And that police officer, his niece was one of my best friends, and she worked actually at the Washington Post. She worked in another department, but she worked with me at the Post. And I knew that she knew where I lived because she had been to my home many times. And I was a little concerned because he was not happy that we splashed his photo on the front page of the Post, and that we did this big investigation into what really happened and how that kid ended up dying. And that was the one time I was a little iffy about, you know, like, would this guy be stupid enough to come to my house? Would he be stupid enough to try to harm me? But, you know, no, he wasn't. He was smart enough to just leave it alone and let it go.
Yeah.
It's the only time I've ever
Another
felt
one.
like my life was in danger.
Yes. And here's another one from Tiana Samuels. She's asking, do you believe that ethics is being disregarded in the field as of late?
God, I hope not. I mean, ethics, ethics so matters, right? It should be taught in every journalism program in the world, because it does matter. So no, I like to think that ethics plays a huge role. It should. If it doesn't, it should.
No, we cannot leave the discussion without looking at the impact of social media, particularly what happens in the government circles. Increasingly, you're seeing governments having their own public relations, their own marketing, their own communications teams, and the intent is to ensure that their narrative hits the streets also. Has that presented challenges for mainstream media and investigative reporters like you?
Well, having their narrative hit the street has always been that's always been their thing, right? It's just now they have more
organized
out there. But yeah, I mean, it's always, that's why they have a public affairs department, right? In agencies, is because they want to get their side out. And you know, who can blame them? But also, as journalists, we have a job to do, and that's why, I mean, public, we call them flags. I think they hate that term, but public affairs, public relations people, they totally, that's their job. It's their job to put a good face on the agency that they are representing. It is our job as journalists and as investigative journalists to, get the facts out there and be as balanced and as fair and as ethical and upstanding as we can be, and get all sides, not just one side or two sides, all the sides.
Yes. Well, you have people watching from across the Caribbean. Many of them are aspiring journalists. Your word of encouragement for them?
Oh, follow your passion. Follow your passion. If I had to go back and do this all over again after 25 plus years, I would do it exactly the same. And I may have a different editor or two along the way, but follow your heart, because I still get excited about a story now as I did when I was first starting out in this business. It just nothing gives me greater pleasure than this business and this chosen profession. So if it's what you really want to do it. Don't let anybody deter you. You're going to be turned down. People are going to tell you no. Okay, you just keep going. Because somebody's going to tell you yes.
Well, that's all the time we have for this section of the program. Thanks so very much, Cheryl Thompson. You have really laid down some very deep insights and very interesting commentary. Really appreciate your taking the time out.
Well, thank you guys for having me, and congratulations to the students. This is really exciting. And, you guys have my email. If not, Damien can make sure you have it. If you have any questions about, what I do, this business, I'm happy to talk to you later. So just shoot me an email. I'm on Twitter. You talk about social media. I'm on Twitter at Cheryl WT. Reach out.
Say that again, at Cheryl?
At Cheryl WT, at CHERYL WT.
Sure, and we'll ensure that before this program ends, we drop your email in the chat so that the students who are joining from Jamaica, from Canada, from Trinidad, and from the United States can touch bases with you.
All amazing places. Ah,
great.
Can't wait to get back there. Can't wait to get back there after this pandemic.
Sure, sure. Well, the vaccine will be helpful for you.
Here's hoping. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so very much. That's Cheryl Thompson. She is an investigative reporter with NPR. And now we turn our attention to the giveaway segment. To participate, you may type your responses in the chat. The first person with the correct response will receive a prize of a condenser mic. And so for the first giveaway, it is required that you have a Jamaican address. And here is the question. Get those fingers ready. What was the name given to this event before it was changed to Digitimes? That's part one of question one. And the other part is how many years since then has it been referred to as Digitimes? So that's question one. Let me repeat it for you. What was the name of this event before it was changed to Digitimes? And how many years since then has it been referred to as Digitimes? We are waiting on your answers for question one, and reminding you that this is a special event put on by the journalism students of the Caribbean School of Media and Communication. This is a part of their final year project. And of course, in a couple months, probably 2 or 3, they will be in the throes, the thick of things as journalists working the streets. So we're waiting on the answers to the questions. That's question one, which is what was the name of this event before it was changed to Digitimes, and for how many years now has it been under this new name, Digitimes? That's question one. You will win a condenser mic if your answer is correct. And we'll move on to the next question also. But let me see if we have a winner. No, not yet. No, not yet. We're still waiting on a winner for question one. But let me throw out question two in the meantime. And your prize for the question one, the person who gets that question correctly, will receive a condenser mic. And for question two, well, we do have a winner. Is this Isaiah Rodriguez? Isaiah Rodriguez is the winner for question one. She had the correct answer. We should have the answers also too here, so we can share them with the viewers. Well, in the meantime, let's go on to question two. Our next giveaway will be open to both local and international guests. The prize is $50 gift certificate from Amazon. And the question for question two is this: which radio station promoted Digitimes earlier today, and what is the name of the program on which it was featured? So let's repeat that. Question two: which radio station promoted Digitimes earlier today, and what was the name of the program on which it was featured? That's question two. And you stand a chance of winning $50 gift certificate on Amazon if your answer is correct. And I tell you something, there's a third question, and the third question, the winner of that prize will also take home a $50 gift certificate from Amazon. But if you are just joining us, you're now in the giveaway segment for this very interesting discussion we have been having, looking at the issue of journalism, in particular investigative journalism in the time of COVID-19. And we're now on giveaway question two, where you can win a $50 gift certificate on Amazon if you are able to answer the question that we had just posed a while ago. Which radio station promoted Digitimes earlier today, and what is the name of the program on which it was featured? And the winner is Javon Gordon. So congratulations, Javon. You have won for yourself $50 gift certificate from Amazon. And then we're moving on now to question three. Name any two disadvantages of investigative journalism, and those disadvantages, you may have heard them being mentioned earlier. Name any two of those disadvantages, and you stand a chance to win a prize of $50 courtesy of this Digitimes 2021. So as we await the answer to the winner to the third question that we posed, would like to say thanks to all of you who have been participating and all who have been listening from across the Caribbean, from Canada, from the United States, from Trinidad, from Jamaica. And at the same time, we'll let our friends and brothers and sisters in St. Vincent and the Grenadines know that we are right there with them going through this very, very troubling time of disaster with the volcano. So do we have a winner for question 3. I'll repeat that question. It is for you to name any 2 advantages, I beg your pardon, name any 2 advantages of investigative journalism mentioned earlier. I think I did say disadvantages. Any 2 advantages of investigative journalism mentioned earlier, especially in this period of the pandemic. Do we have a winner? Do we have a winner? Do we have a winner? Not yet. We're still searching for a winner. So in a short while, you'll be seeing a showcase from the final year students of journalism. They will be making their presentations in a short while, but we're just waiting to see if we can have a winner for question number 3. Name 2 advantages. I think I said the wrong thing initially. Name 2 advantages of investigative journalism in this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think we are going to be having a winner in a short while. I'm seeing messages coming in. And until we have the winner, we are going to be preparing to welcome the students of the final year at the Caribbean School of Media and Communications to see what they have been doing over the years. Certainly, as you would have heard before from Dr. Livingston White, things have changed over the year. The blended approach had to be adopted, and at the same time, a significant amount of the work had to be coming from students who would have been doing their work remotely. Certainly the use of technology has been poignant in this period of the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, the winner of that question is Javani Campbell. Congratulations, Javani, the 3rd winner, and you will get also $50 US gift certificate courtesy of the Digitimes 2021. Well, now it's time for the highly anticipated showcase from the final year journalism students. These final year students have worked assiduously despite the circumstances of COVID-19, and we are excited to share their work with you this evening. Here now is Karamak lecturer, David Suter.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you very much, Damien. The students who are reading for the Bachelor of Arts degree in journalism at CARMAC, the Caribbean School of Media and Communication, are required to take this course in investigative multimedia journalism in their final year of their 3-year program. This course serves as a capstone. It's a year-long project. And in semester 1, lecturers guide the students in the basics of investigative journalism, including conceptualizing their story ideas, creating a storyboard, conducting investigative interviews, and writing the investigative story. By the end of the first semester, they complete a print story. But then transitioning into semester 2, they're guided through the creation of audio and video stories to accompany this print article. By the end of the semester, they would have delivered an in-depth print story with multimedia elements, all created and hosted on a web page. As you can imagine, this year was particularly difficult for them as they had to learn new ways of conducting video and audio interviews. Given the limitations of physical interaction with their sources, as you would have heard. However, they persisted despite these challenges, and for the most part, they were able to complete all of their deliverables. This evening, we bring you a sample of what they did. The link to the website containing the other stories will be made available at a later date, and you have a chance to see the work of the full class. For the moment, please watch, listen, and enjoy this sample of the student work. Thank you very much.
Fashion braces have become a local trend in recent years. If you should go on Instagram and search fashion braces, then hundreds of businesses offering the service will pop up, sometimes posing as dental businesses. Not only is this practice illegal, but also it is unsafe. In recent years, several new features have been done on fashion braces in Jamaica. For each feature, the Dental Council of Jamaica, the statutory regulatory body for the dental profession, promises to crack down on the illegal trade. After speaking to several orthodontists about the issue, it was established that the Dental Council may not be fulfilling its mandate. The investigative piece, Dental Council Not Doing Enough, say orthodontists, uncovers what orthodontists and other dental practitioners think about the fashion braces issue and why they think the council is not doing enough. The article also seeks to ascertain why the Dental Council has failed to crack down on the increasing number of people who are installing fashion braces. The investigative story JUTC Fights Losing Battle for Profit sought to explain the problems that have plagued the government-run bus company for decades and why it continues to make huge losses. The story also uncovered some of the possible reasons that successive governments have failed to fix this long-standing problem. One former managing director indicated that the company remains cash-strapped due to employment of unqualified staff and a lack of efficient buses. The history of the organization shows that there's a vast number of politically appointed people who are taken into the system without meeting the necessary qualifications, and, as a result, evidence has been presented to show that they have corrupted the system. They are not sure of what to do, so they go in as scrapers to see what they can grab and move with, he said. The Portmore Climate Change Park story sought to uncover why, after spending millions of dollars, the project is still incomplete. During the investigation, Portmore Mayor Leon Thomas said that the soil is salty and the plants that are there are dying. The investigation indicated that due diligence was not done in determining the location of the park. The National Environment and Planning Agency NEPA was not involved in the project. Furthermore, the investigation also found that the Jamaican government allocated over $75 million over a 3-year span for the park's completion, and the German government made nearly 250,000 euros available to Portmore. Although some of the funds were used, the park is nothing like what the mayor described when construction was about to commence almost 6 years ago. Residents in the community of Betheltown, Westmoreland and its surrounding areas have been struggling with the issue of a lack of piped water for several years. Though the communities had no piped water, some residents were still billed for the service. This investigative piece, Water at Last, covers this ongoing issue and how residents have been coping. Also, it highlights some of the problems some residents faced and captures how the National Water Commission (NWC) has been responding to those problems. Interestingly, after 4 months of new leadership in the parish, the residents started receiving piped water. This had residents questioning whether the issue they were facing for years was an act of sabotage. When speaking to the newly elected MP for the parish, he explained that the lack of piped water in the communities was more of a lack of representation than sabotage.
Well, thank you so very much. And just before we move into the very final part of this program, the answers to the questions we had posed earlier. Question 1, what was the name given to this event before? It was called Digitimes. And how many years has Digitimes been around? Well, before Digitimes, you had Carmack Times. That was in my time. And so Digitimes has been around for 3 years. Which radio station promoted Digitimes earlier today? And what's the name of the program on which it was promoted? Well, that was Newstalk 93 FM. And the program was Straight Up with Kenrick Barnaby. And name 2 advantages of investigative journalism. 1, holding the powerful accountable. And 2, exposing the truth. So congratulations to the winners of the questions, Sarah Rodriguez, Javon Gordon, as well as Javani Campbell. Well, oh, how time flies when you're having fun. Before you go, you should remember to fill out the evaluation form. That form can be accessed via the link posted in the chat. We're all but at the end of this Digitimes 2021 production, but let's now invite the Times Best 17 to extend the vote of thanks.
We'd like to thank everyone who made it to Digitimes 2021.
Given the multiple crises we're currently living through, investigative journalism is all the more important. Ariana Huffington.
We extend a heartfelt thank you to our guest speaker, Ms. Cheryl W. Thompson, for sharing with us the importance of investigative journalism, and to Professor Mark Beckford of Howard University for making the connection.
We would also like to highlight the input of Dr. Barnes and Dr. White for not only contributing to the execution of this event, but to the creation of Jamaica's next generation of journalists.
Extend our gratitude to our MC, Mr. Damian Mitchell, who without a doubt kept everyone on their toes. Warmest thanks to our sponsors, Loop Jamaica and News Talk, and our donors for their role in the execution of this event.
We'd also like to express our appreciation for those who assisted us behind the scenes, the tech team.
Their contribution has undoubtedly facilitated the event's smooth execution.
To the next generation of Karmat journalists, we say congratulations.
Well, thank you so very much. And that brings us to the end of the second online staging of Digitimes. The coordinators of the event are kindly asking you that you fill out the evaluation form. The form can be accessed via a link posted in the chat. Thanks again for participating. We look forward to seeing you next year at Digitimes 2022. I'm Damian Mitchell. Good evening.